Alrighty, I think I might start. Once I can hear myself. Yeah, okay, good. Hi, welcome to another stream of Lyrebird Edits. Thank you for waiting. I am having a fight with TeamViewer, which doesn't like me using TeamViewer. Who would have thought? So yeah, in about 10 minutes time, I'm gonna have to pause the stream for 30 seconds, jump onto TeamViewer, and very, very quickly delete a whole bunch of files and press OK before it shuts my connection down because it suspects I'm using it commercially. I'm not. I just use it an awful lot. Thanks, TeamViewer. Yeah, this stream is sponsored by TeamViewer. Smooth user experience. Absolutely, like no problems when you try and use what it's designed for. And it'll, yeah, if you use it too much, it suspects you're using it within a commercial setting. So yeah, TeamViewer, it's really good. Hey, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Sean. Hey, how you doing? Good, good. Perfect timing. We just just started. Thanks to everyone for waiting. Or if you just joined us. Here's a mean curve. Yeah, I did. You were you just caught me then. No worries. Morning, Ernst. Hey, how you doing? Morning, Sikoj. Morning, TT Good. Everyone's here. Why don't we just start the edit? That's probably a good idea. TTLACC, what did you mean by trash can nearby? I was staring at your thing for a minute being like, I'm not sure if I just haven't woken up or I don't know what you mean, I'm sorry. Maybe you were referring to Outriders, dogs and trash can. Brain, come on, work. What is that? It's like a piece of cheese, but I don't know. Oh, right, gotcha. The probable vomiting, yeah, man, last night was awful. I had this wrap on Friday, which was really tasty. It's a good wrap, um, but it's one of those things where you take a bite into it, and you know almost instantly whether or not it's going to affect you somehow on a physical, deep physical level. Like, ooh, this is tasty, and then that wave of realization comes, and you're like, okay, it's gonna be in for a fun ride. And so over the course of the next day, I just had gripes, and last night I was not feeling it particularly well. But had a surprisingly good sleep and woke up with no pain, and here I am, alive and not sick. Um, I'd probably get a plastic tub actually instead of a trash can. It's because it's a bit easier to clean. For some reason, whenever I see the word trash can, um, we call them garbage bins. Trash boxes, trash bins. Maybe because we have such a thing about cans being metal. I don't know. We don't have metal um, trash disposable things here. It's either plastic or plastic. Hmm. Ah, yeah, awful. I'm sorry to hear you had the flu. A stinky cheese, you say? Oh. Hmm. Interesting. This is an advantage to having them metal, isn't there? Ah, that's interesting to know. I guess in some cases it makes more sense to have it metal, depending on what you throw in there and how. Wait, do you have a recycling program in America? I think I read something recently that your country doesn't, but I'm not sure if that's just like at a council level or a national level. Because we have recycled bins that are big sort of plastic green tubs. Um, that's going backwards. Oh, that's why, because I pressed the middle button. Um, Trying to hurt. Just feeling the. I think we're up to here. Um. That's right. Ours are plastic. Same with herringbone. Um, we have, depending on the council, some councils have a blue bin and a yellow bin. One is for metal, the other is for papers. I have a combined one. Lots of councils have combined ones because it just goes into the same place at the end of the day. Okay, and recycle bin next to it usually. Okay, I wonder what I was reading then about America's recycle program. Hmm, it's a good question from Herringbone. Um, Good. Let's pop into the edit then. So we got up to here last time where Julia is arriving back at the site where she crashed a car and moved on to the basement with her family. Here we go. Yep. So I remember the pink and blue. Good. So here's what we got up to. Like we talk about waste management. Always an interesting range of topics we talk about here. Um, wow, four, nice. What are your four? You've got green waste, green metal, plastic, general. Is that how it works? Okay, catch you later, herringbone. Catch you next time for another exciting episode of discuss the waste management protocols. Give us carpet. You can't just demand carpet like that. How rude! You don't get to dictate the when and where I display my carpet. That's awful. That's such a maybe later. Maybe later. We're here for the editing first and foremost, and carpet second and second most. Sometimes that priority reverses. Sometimes. You've got about the foreplay. Wonderful. Let's dive right in. Julia swept her wrist across the ridge of her brow, feeling the slick of sweat paint her skin and sear the inside that cut along her temple. And sear the inside along her temple. After getting her breath, she slipped the. Is this zoomed in enough for you guys, or do you want me to go to 150? Let me know if 150. This is 150. 125 was what I had before. Let me know which one you prefer. Move the mic a bit closer. After getting her breath, she slipped the backpack over her shoulders. Oh, in this sentence here, yeah. And see the inside of the cut. Is that what you meant? Anyway, the diaper bag was. So after getting her breath, she slipped the backpack over her shoulders. The diaper bag was heavy, so she draped the strap diagonal across her chest and felt it pinch as it looped around her neck, allowing it to hang against her hip. Remembering the tire iron, she slipped it into a small hoop on the strap of the backpack. Slowed by the added weight, she started for the trees, but halted. How could she forget? She turned back to the car and reached into the rear seat, Chloe's blanket, soft and seafoam green with little orange and blue dinosaurs tiled across it. Her baby. Julia held the fabric to her face and smiled at the way it ran like silk across her skin. Taking in its scent, she found herself in the bedroom, then toweling off her daughter after a bath. Lavender and milk, Chloe's perfume. She tucked the cloth under the strap on her shoulder and skulked back to the woods, laboured but quick. Good. Good use of a little sort of throwback memory there. That was nice. Clear of the freeway, clear of the meadow, she walked. That's good. I like that too. The weight of the bags, a burden, but one she would bear without complaint. Retracing her steps, she followed the slopes, rocks, bushes, and all the other markers she'd forced herself to memorize until she came to the path again. Passing by the trench, Julia heard a familiar sound. A bark, a single bark. Smoke! Setting down the bags, she ran, chasing the isolated howl of a family dog. She hurried, too quick to notice that the dark pillars whipping by were familiar to her. Moments later, she saw him. He wasn't alone. Smoke wagged his tail and danced around a small child, a girl, the same young one she'd seen the night preceding. She's alive. Julia called Smoke, and he perked his ears and snapped his eyes around, finding hers. They gleamed in pale reflection of the moonlight. Smoke bounded toward her with the earnestness that only a dog could have, and jumped into her chest and almost had her on the ground. She scratched into his ear the way he liked. He licked her hands, neck, and face. Julia rolled him to his side, and he went belly up, letting her rub the length of his body. He flipped back to his feet and shook the forest from his hair. Julia laughed. Smoke barked. She shushed him, and he obeyed, content to keep on wagging. Oh, hanging at it. Gotcha. Yeah, actually, good. Fairly good observation there. Just about skipping the movement again. Let's actually stop there and just talk about this little chunk. Before we go on. So, yeah, in terms of having skipped that movement, I think I really agree with you. In the space of, I'll zoom back out to 125 just for a second so we can. Yeah, there we go. Is my computer lagging on resizing Google Docs? That's abysmal. Oh well. Yeah, so here what we've just read is this, right? So the really important stuff is this. Like when she moves away from the freeway and then reunites with Smoke. Ah, okay, cool. Maybe it's not my computer, maybe it's like a software thing. Cool. Anyway, like it's a free program, we can hardly complain about it. At least it's not. Was one of you saying in your story that you made mention of the Red Sox, and then like within your Google Docs doc, and then you got like a ad for it on Facebook or something? I think one of you guys was saying that. Anyway, so let's do the pink and blue thing again, because I think that was a pretty nice way of demonstrating what we were talking about last time, which is about the balance between describing granular details in the story versus describing the real crux. So Julius went across, in your breath, shoulders, diaper bag, tire iron, added trees. So this is all pink like that. Now Chloe's blanket is arguably in that same category as well, with the soft and sea from her baby, but this is probably, I don't think I'm gonna color that the same, because this is actually quite nice. If I could do a trade-off between these two, I'd choose the latter. This can be condensed down into, I picked up my bag and, or Julia picked up her bag and headed back for the basement, or in other words, it establishes a bit of like a sort of like a inventory baseline. We've got the tire iron being looped into the backpack, but apart from that, it's just I put a backpack on. This, however, here is actually quite good from the second half onwards, because we got Chloe's blanket, which is nice that not only is it a bit of an interesting scene for Julia to experience, but it gives really good character detail as well. So this, instead of the pink, should be the focus, really. In fact, if you can condense that down to 2 sentences and keep this here, then that'd be really nice. So Chloe's blanket is actually the blue in this part here. It's not strictly, it doesn't have too much motion. This is motion here. She tucked the cloth under the strap of her shoulder and skulked back to the woods, labored back quick. But all this here is really good, so I'm gonna highlight that in blue. Pink and blue, nice and gendered. Very good. Clear of the freeway, clear of the meadow, she walked. The weight of the bags a burden, but one she would bear without complaint. See, this here reiterates the pink information. So even if you got rid of all of the pink, it would still be relayed here in a way that your reader would probably... I think it'd be stronger if you just declared it once and away you go. The really nice thing about stories is that you don't have to burden yourself using the thing here, burdening yourself. You don't have to burden yourself with outlining these base level details over and over again. I think there are sets of rules that people engage with when they read stories, and you don't have to be, I suppose, so focused on the micro detail here. Strictly speaking, this is all motion, but it can be served better if you just declare what it is and then move on. Now, retracing her steps, she followed the slopes, rocks, bushes, and all the other markers she'd forced herself to memorize until she came to the path again. Passing a trench, Julia heard a familiar sound, a bark, a single bark, smoke. So, you can milk this. I'm going to highlight that in blue again to highlight that it's important. This here could take almost half a paragraph to get through. Like this here, what I've just highlighted. Oh, yep, cool. Oh, it was Ernst, I think. Right. Yeah, isn't that interesting? It's hard to know like what's coincidence and what is nefarious data mining. Exactly, GDLAZC. It's the Illuminati, basically. Hmm. I had a little bit of an impression of this as well, and I assumed that there was going to be like a blur kind of moment where she was taking too long to take stuff out of the car, and then a monster comes and spooks. But because it didn't happen, and she slipped back into the forest, that's probably a double measure or a double reason to get this a bit snappier. Yeah, exactly. So if she wants to move away from the forest as quickly as possible, uh, her behavior here doesn't feed into that too well. Just because of well, her internal state may be similar to what we were just discussing. Then she may be really wanting to push back into the forest. But the way that it's narrated, um, it plonks through all of this pink detail here, and it slows everything down. It may even be worthwhile just outright stating the fact that Julia is trying to hurry through some of this mechanical stuff. She could fumble around with some objects. She could be looking over her shoulder every now and then. Hmm. Hey, Pumpkin Pie Addict. Hello, how you doing? Welcome, welcome. True. How could she be in two places at once? Wonderful. Yeah, so once ah, yeah, here's the differentiating question. Clear the freeway, clear the meadow she walked. The weight of the bags a burden, but one she would bear without complaint. Passing by the trench, Julia heard a familiar sound, a bark, a single bark. So this is a really good opportunity to perhaps make this into a landmark that she has come across before on her journey, on her first, on her earlier on in the scene. It's good to revisit landmarks like that. I think that's what you were going for here, but I don't know what the trench is, or at least I don't remember what it was. Julia heard a familiar sound. This is the sort of detail you can milk for all it's worth. There's no downside to making this longer. The biggest reason you want to do that is to thicken the pace. Thicken the pace. Slow the world down and just narrow in on the detail. Expand on it and make it special. Right now it's just, Julia, here's a bark. Oh, it's a dog. And that's the sort of the quick impact of it. in the same way that an editor of a movie has to make sure that the visual sense of how the scenes are all placed side by side conveys a sense of pace and suspense and action, so too with a writer. Your your editing is basically the length of sentences and how many sentences. That's the sort of visual cue that you're working with. So yeah, just make it longer. Um, and then you can add sentences here like that couldn't. Yeah, so this is just a good place for you to flesh out the detail. And then she can go to the family dog. She hurried too quick to notice the dark pillars whipping by were familiar to her. Now this harkens back to the dream. So we know what these dark pillars are from the dream. Julia, however, doesn't. And this is a good indication of how the narrator is dealing with the character. Too quick to notice that the dark pillars whipping by were familiar to her. So, in other words, she doesn't notice. This is an interesting split between what the narrator knows and what the character knows. So, how do you make this effective, and how do you So we know what these dark pillars are from the dream. Julia doesn't even sense them, which means that this description is for us, the readers, only. It's just for us. In which case, however, before, in their introductory scene, they were abstract. Due to the nature of the dream, here they become concrete. This is an opportunity for you to solidify. Ooh, I'm gonna throw you my favorite words, reify, which I don't know if it's even how you spell. Sorry, say reify. No, not rectify, not deify. It's reify. 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 There we go. Yes, nailed it. So it's an opportunity for you to make real their form. You take it from an abstract concept, and this is the first time in the story that it's an actual physical entity. This means, however, I shouldn't do that too much. This means, however, therefore, I don't know, I use that too much. I think I used it here as well. This means that you need to flesh out the physical nature of it just a tad more. You don't need to, it's just a suggestion, of course. I think that'll make it really strong. Also be careful with sentences like these two. She hurried too quick to notice the dark pillars whipping by were familiar to her. Moments later she saw him, which implies the dark pillars, but you really mean the dog. So just be careful with little specific sentences like this, but the pronouns refer to what you think it's referring to. He wasn't alone. So he wasn't alone could be the dark pillars or smoke. Smoke or the pillars. Now I know it's the pillars because I've read on, but your reader won't. This will be their first impression and they won't know which one you're talking about. Due to the fact that this is quite a squashed little scene here, we don't, as readers, have enough time to weigh up which object is most important. We haven't got a weight for which character is most important. So there is smoke. So who is... So does this sentence... So does this mean that smoke was joined by the pillars? No, we know that's not the case, but like you can answer that question, but it's more rhetorical. It's more a case of if you write more about smoke before this sentence arrives, and leave the pillars to, or and consequently put less weight on the pillars, that means that the alone can imply a new character. And that's what you're going for here. He wasn't alone to be like, oh, who's Smoke with? But the way it's currently reading is, oh, Smoke's with the pillars. And that happens because we've got one sentence here of Smoke and one sentence of the pillars. So it's equal weighted. And exactly on this topic, yeah, exactly. I'm gonna believe the shit out of this part. Fantastic. Oh, sorry. People have been talking, and I've just been waffling along. Oh, cool. Yep. So Sean says it's that's the same location. Yep. Um, plop a distinctive feature in there. Yeah. Exactly. You got break. I got Rayfei. Yes. This is good word exchange. Rayfei is a really good word, but it's not. I don't know if you could use it in a story. I'd like to see it being used in a story. Is it in mine? I don't know. Yeah, it's one of my favorites. Yeah, and you make mention here of that point of view split. That's entirely up to you whether you want to continue that. It's it's not strictly Julia's point of view. It's the narrator's point of view through Julia, except it's still very external. So there's a lot of detail around Julia. It's like you know in Super Mario 64 how you've got that thing on the cloud with the camera that's following you around everywhere. And most of the game you spend with the camera on the outside following Mario as Mario goes and does his thing and wrecks up the castle. But you can press like C up a couple of times and you go into Mario's head. And then you see him from the first person. And that is the difference between having a narrator on the outside through your character and actually being in the character's head looking around, but still through a narrator. One's an internal story, the other is an external story. This is an external story, where the narrator sits very comfortably outside Julia, describes events around her, very rarely through her. So we don't get like long descriptions of like Julia trips over and she feels a lot of pain and describing what the pain feels like, describing her anguish through the words. It's more an external kind of story. Yeah. I never thought I'd be using a Super Mario reference for writing, but that worked kind of well. Yeah, that's right, Lakitu. That's what he was called. Yeah, Bowser didn't have you wrong. Hey Naz, it's good to see you. How you doing? Yeah. So yeah, as you said, it's up to you how deep you want your narrator to go into Julia and through her experience. One day Luigi will get he'll get his own adventure that doesn't. Well, he had the haunted mansion one, didn't he? Yeah. Poor Luigi. That's right. D2? Oh, 1 and 2. Yep. I didn't know there was a second one. Okay. Um let me grapple with TeamViewer. I have like 40 seconds, like a 40-second window to dial into a university computer, delete files, press OK. Wish me luck. Did it. It's stressful because I had to move like 3 gigs of files over to from one folder to another to a network drive, and those files are precious. If they're destroyed, then my project is a little tanked. Um, yeah, but I did it! Yay! Thank you, TeamViewer, for helping me out with my science project. Yeah, thanks, TeamViewer. Download TeamViewer, use TeamViewer, and until you use it too much, and then they'll stop you from using it because they don't want you to use TeamViewer. They just want you to use TeamViewer, but not too much. Not like using it to the point where it's sensible, like once every couple of days. No, that's too much use for your software. I'm really bitter about this because every computer that's important to me has a TeamViewer pulled like access thing, and yeah, they're just getting very skimpy with their usage. Anyway, I'm not here to slander a company for their software as much as I would like to. Yeah, okay, that's a good suggestion. I always like that myself. It's completely up to you how you want to. This is in a comment response to Sean's declaration that he's going to move the camera a little further into Julia. Yeah, don't do it 100%. You don't need to, but you can have a hybrid approach, and I really like that approach with my own writing because I feel as though it's a really great mix between being able to tell world detail as a narrator, but at the same time making the story personal enough that I feel like I'm with Julia. And I think maybe that's what's a little bit missing from the story so far. And a really easy fix is to just push Lakitu in. He's pushing him a little closer. If you team viewer. Yeah, exactly. It's second draft stuff. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. Except it's not so much file movement as it is like I need screen sharing because I'm using software on that desktop, so I have to open up like full programs. Uh, I suppose you could do something similar with the cloud, but it's more complicated than file sharing. It's also working through pieces of software. Yeah. Ah, yeah. I haven't done my own story in a little while. I might pencil in something pretty soon, and we can go through one of mine. Hmm. Yeah, that'd be fun. I'll pick one, and we can work through it. Hmm. After I get through the current cycle of people who are in my queue. Sounds good. Yeah, definitely like that. There's one point that I wanted to really hone home here because it's very important for this part here. In the same way that we were talking about weights. So the weight that you put on different characters here is sort of equal in terms of smoke, and then the Dark Pillars, he wasn't alone. That's a really important concept to understand before we go here, because this paragraph here has all of its weight focused on the known, right? There are two characters here that are really important in this paragraph. It's not only Smoke, but it's also a girl. But if we highlight the girl in light green number 3, can you even see that? Like a sort of grey whisper. Yep. So this is the girl, and I'm gonna highlight Smoke. Like every sentence that's Smoke will be yellow. So this is also a girl. Um, she's alive. Zip. That's all Smoke. So when we're talking about weighting within a story, hang on, did I color that wrong? Yes, I did. I'm sorry. That one there. So we've done something interesting with this paragraph here. Let me zoom out a bit. he wasn't alone implies this girl, right? But then look how much weight is spent on the girl versus how much is spent on Smoke. Um, Usually in scenes like this, you would have it kind of, well, not really flipped around, almost opposite, but you certainly want to put more priority on the girl. So if I was going to write this personally, what I would do would be keep the first couple of sentences if they're fine. I would then have Smoke walk up to Julia. She'd like scratch his ear absent-mindedly, comma, as and then get Julia to stare at the girl. So that could take space of one sentence, and then I describe the girl a bit more. Um, so in other words, you push this further up. And while it's really nice, like that you have like a reunification scene, it's a bit like the bag scene at the start here. It's a bit pink. So in fact, I probably should have colored it pink. Um, but I wanted to illustrate that this is a character point. And for your own writing too, you have to decide which character takes prime reference in your paragraph. And here, I think it's the wrong way around. I think it'd be a lot more weighty and important if the girl was given priority and Smoke was given like a bit of an ancillary focus. Smoke comes up to Julia. Julia's really happy to see Smoke. She gives him a scratch on the ear. Fine. Who's this girl? I wanna know. But me as a reader, I'm kind of like, come on, get back to the girl, back to the girl, back to the girl, back to the girl, back to the girl. Here's the girl down here at the bottom. So yeah, like just really simple fix. Just squash this detail down really slow, so really small, and then focus on the girl, which means that you can push this up. She felt him at her heels as she approached the little girls. This is still Smoke. Afraid, alone, the child scurried away from her, hiding behind the stubby remainder of a cloven tree. Julia cocked an eyebrow. She's afraid of me. Smoke strutted around the stump, sniffing the ground at the girl's feet. Julia rested her hands on her waist and squinted at her, then smiled. It's okay, I don't bite. Neither does this guy. One thing I did want to mention about this paragraph here was there was a sentence I really liked. Oh, sorry, it was this one that I really liked. Yeah, I've already showered praise on that one. Um, yeah. We need to do your story. It needs to be trash though. I could write a trash story for you if you like, and we can edit through my trash. Um, Hey, Soul Star Lord, tell us about your personality test. Also, hi, welcome back. Yep, focus more on the girl, have the moments of Smoke play out as single sentences between her stuff. Great. Fantastic. I agree completely. Let's move on. She poked her head up from behind the wooden tuffet and glared at Julia with green eyes muted by the shadows. She was covered in the leavings of the forest, soot and mud and leaves and blood. Though the girl could be no older than 7, she wore her emotions peculiarly on her face, moody and aloof. I like your hoodie, Julia said. Dark purple's my favorite color. And your jeans, where did you get those? I had a pair just like them when I was a little girl. Ah, it's Julia. You're looking at yourself. That's my guess. Uh, I think I've got links blocked on my... Yeah, I do. I have links blocked. Sorry. You can pop it into Discord, though, if you like. Ah, a non-familiarity kinship. Ah, okay, gotcha. Cool. Though the girl could be no older than 7, she wore her emotions maturely on her face, moody and aloof. I think you can rework this. from a tell into a show. So the girl could be no older than 7. Um, which part of this don't I like? She wore her emotions is good. Maturely on her face is probably where it falls for me, because body language can be used to demonstrate details, but maturely on her face just sort of outright tells you. It's sort of like a bait and switch. We start off by showing, and then halfway through we just outright tell. So for example, you could replace this with she wore her emotions with gravity, moody and aloof, or the girl could be no older than 7. Julia recognized some sort of her face belied an innate maturity. Mm. It's a tricky one. It doesn't really need to change, but maybe just have a little think about this when you're reading through again, whether or not you could find a more intuitive way of demonstrating this rather than just declaring it's mature. Um, the girl could be no older than 7. There was a moodiness to her that seemed to belie the body that it was contained in. It's a tricky one. I know what you're going for. See if you can think of something here. Um, the girl wouldn't respond. Her hair was matted and tangled, blowing in the wind like dark auburn ribbons that shimmered in the cowardly light. Julia allowed the girl the time she needed to take the measure of her stranger. After a few moments more, she broke the silence. You know, it's okay if you don't want to say anything. I'm perfectly happy to do all the talking for both of us. This is a bit of a double-edged sword here because of the she, but I think it's okay because the way that she's talking implies that it's Julia. I think that's alright. This here, her hair was matted and tangled, blowing in the wind like dark auburn ribbons that shimmered in the cloudy light. It's very pretty. Um, you can either put this detail earlier, um, or you can keep it there. It's up to you. If you want to first describe her, here, soot and mud, leaves and blood, and she's 7. So this is kind of all the detail that we need, I guess, to form an image of her. Um, I also really like that you describe her through the dialogue as well. That's very clever. Hmm. The girl cultivated. Oh, sorry, I gotta read chat. Um, this is the. Yes, that's good. Yeah, good. Yeah, I think you're on the right track with that one, Rider SG. Whiskey Roger 369. Hello. Yeah, I'm good, thanks. I'm doing well. How are you doing? Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the stream. We're going through Sean's story right now, who's Outrider SG. We're about, I suppose, what, that's 8 pages from the end? We've been working through this one for a couple of streams now. So we're dealing with an alien invasion, and a family have had to seek shelter inside a basement. We're currently dealing with Julia, who had to go back to their crashed car and pluck some medicine from a bag for her daughter. So that's the kind of story we're dealing with. And in fact, I think right now, um, we're in the middle of a forest. Julia has just been reunited with their family dog, and Um, hey Sean, was this girl wasn't in a dream, was she? She was um in that section that we discussed before where Julia was walking through the forest and she has that flashback. That's the same girl, right, from the night before? Hmm. Psychobiotic sense says, I noticed that you have a short list of statements to open paragraphs. The girl wouldn't respond. She poked her head up. She felt him at her heels. Smoke wagged his tail. Yeah, I see what you mean. And I agree with what Pumpkin Pie Addict says. It's not a problem. It's just sort of part of the style. Hmm. Yeah. When was the last time you popped into the stream? Must have been. Gosh, I don't remember. Do you remember when the last time was? This is for Whiskey Roger. You know, I've been streaming for a year now. I think last stream was my 1 year stream anniversary. Hmm, cool. Ah, that's the other figure in the dream sequence. She's the girl from the flashback. Cool. A very long time ago. Oh, nice. So maybe, like, was it even last year? Wow. Cool. Actually, I have a Discord now. If you want to pop on over and say hi, um, the link is on my Twitch dashboard or the homepage where you see me. Just click on the link, follow through, and yeah, that's where we are. 2017, nice. Rewatch the Shrek anthology. Oh gosh, how many Shrek movies are there? No, I don't want an answer to that question. I I didn't do anything for my stream anniversary. When I got 100 followers, I popped a party popper. Whoa, exciting. Um, yeah, but I didn't do anything for my anniversary. Not enough Shrek movies. Good, good. Pop on over and say hi in the Discord. We do talk a lot. Yeah, you'll be. Yeah, it's a single channel of lots of talking, but it's good. Like there's lots of really interesting stuff we talk about, and also people sharing ideas about their writing and getting feedback. Yeah, it's good. I feel like that would be something that you would do for your own stream, Sayaka. Um, I do have some anime posters, but I'm more of a closet kind of weeb. I need to hide it. Yeah. I don't know what you're talking about, Pumpkin Pie Addict. No idea what you're talking about. Yeah, if only to DLACC, that'd be good. I think you need a bot for that, don't you? Do I still have my bot? I wonder. My wall is quite barren, yes, that is true. Come out of the closet since 2018. I've actually got like this is like my closet right here. Listen. Yeah. Closet. But yeah, no, in terms of my innate yeah, weebness. No, that's in the closet. He's given the skeletons inside. So many skeletons. My goodness. Yeah, I think I got rid of my bot, so I can't do one of those fancy commands where it tells you when you've been on there last. Hmm. During this Shrek drought. I reckon Mike Myers has another Shrek in him. Yeah. Excuse me. What kind of anime do I watch? Well, nothing recently, but I've just been busy with other things. The last one I watched was oh good, they've updated their privacy policy. Last one I watched was Hoseki no Kuni, which was this one. Really good. Really, really good. It's one of the um hmm. I think anyone doesn't watch anime. I watch it pretty infrequently. Just I wait until people tell me what's good. It's like so otaku. Well, it's not too bad. Actually, one of the very rare, almost 3D-ish animes. Like they use a lot of 3D models, and it looks good, which is really rare for something that uses 3D models. I'm more in the Naz camp, I think, and I usually wait until people tell me something is excellent, and then I'll watch it. And it needs to be like 12 episodes max, otherwise, um, I probably won't even give it a go. I'm a busy man. I've got other things to do. I need my anime like very condensed, and I have no time for like substandard stuff. I need the juice, the concentrated stuff. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think you can still um yeah, you could probably raise the ire of some people by saying that. Read alone. Good point. Yeah, like you can separate them out into their own sentences. That's the really nice part about afraid alone. And those little sort of phrases where it actually kind of marries itself really nicely together. I'm like from my perspective, it's 50-50 whether or not you kind of split it and make it like that. That's up to you. That's a suggestion there. Um, Dragon Ball Z is anime fight me, says Nazgula. Hmm. Yeah, I think so. It looks better, doesn't it? I think you're right, Pumpkin Pie Addict. Um, good, good. All right, let's steep a topic back into. She felt him at her heels as she approached the little girl. Oh no, sorry, we've already done this. The girl cultivated a meager frown, subtle, but it was there. Hey, you wouldn't be hungry by any chance, would you, Julia asked. She, once... but it was there. So far we've got a lot of, facial expression. Lots of facial expressions so far, which is good. I kind of want her to move a bit, like, is she... So in addition to having her change her facial expressions, I sort of feel like she should be moving a little bit to put distance between her and Julia. Maybe, that's just my hunch. Have a think about that. Um, so Saika says, she's afraid of me is a bit of an odd fit. I didn't notice it when I... Yeah, Sean. This is one of those point of view things before where no, it, it fits from Sean's style of narration. I think. It does come out of nowhere. So I will put this on its own line as an internal character thought, which looks like this. Yep, that could work. And then just and then get rid of this paragraph break here. Yeah, that looks quite nice. Yeah, so Sean says he wants to change this to uh, is is she afraid of me? If it's I want it to seem like it's part of the narrative plus her internal thought, but you. Hmm. I think Sean was saying that he wants to, in subsequent edits, focus on changing the narrator's focal lens. So instead of making it so external to Julia, instead to work through all of the writing and to make it a bit more internal to Julia's perspective, which is a very thorough kind of change, but it'll mean that things like this can disappear and instead be couched within the narrative voice. One of the really nice things about getting your narrator closer to your character is that you don't need to do this. You can just declare it within, like, for example, this doesn't work, partly because I didn't spell it properly, my mistake. A sentence like that doesn't work in the current narrative climate because, oops, it's so far away from. The narrator has been so far away from Julia up to this point that getting Julia's voice to echo into the narration doesn't work. But if you go through and work cleanly through everything and make sure that it fits a new narrative lens, then it can work. Pretty thorough change, but yeah. Narrator's focal lens, phrase of the day. Yeah, I like thinking about it like a camera. I think that visual metaphor helps people understand the style of their writing and how it affects how the reader sees everything. Um, mm, yeah, right. I think it's used often to really good effect with lots of different authors. Um, Sniffing the ground of a smoke. Smoke is the name of a dog. Sorry. Good point. No, no. It's yeah, name of the dog. Hmm. Hmm. I think just on Naz's point there, try it and see if it fits, and if it doesn't, then you can discard it and go back to what you had before. You can be flexible in terms of trying out new things. Yep, I agree with that, Sean. Um, Julia asked, she held up her hands and gestured at the child to wait there. Running back to the trail for the bag, did she drop it? I don't recall her, I don't recall her leaving it behind. She lifted diagonally across the shoulder again. She shuffled back to the stump. Happy to see the girl had waited. Good opportunity for you to replace her in the scene. Happy to see the girl hadn't moved from her perch on the tree stump. Yeah, it's often good to do that. It's often good to, when you move characters in and out of frame, to repaint the scene. Smoke was licking her cheek. Julia swung the diaper bag in front of her, and pulled out a package of beef jerky. You don't need to say that. You can just say, Julia pulled out a package of beef jerky from a bag, and slipped. Nailed it. And slipped a large piece out of the plastic. Stop. She knelt down, holding it. Snack, whatever. But like the reason why I was reconfiguring these sentences is because some of the detail is a bit redundant. You don't need to describe her swinging out the bag, unzipping. You just sort of say, "Take it out of the bag." Yep, I agree with Masaka. You can put happy to see. You can put relieved to see. Completely fine. Good suggestion. Yep, nice one. Thought I'd type it in. Pumpkin Pie Addict says, toss in the smell. Yeah, I think that's a good opportunity for you to do that. Pumpkin. Pumpkin Addict says, to add some smell detail. Basically what I'm writing here is add detail to make the scene come alive. We've got a very good visual sense of, almost a visual sense of what's going on, and then you can flesh it out with new detail, new sense detail. Right. Let me come to that in a second. How to trick smell? Like success. I don't know what to make of that. I don't know what to make of that at all. Let's push forward. Thamish, she didn't bother pretending a lack of interest. She snatched it from her fingers. Yeah, what Saika was saying here, I agree. She didn't bother feigning. I'd rather describe her change. I'd rather a change is softening of her character rather than a declaration of her having changed. So you could almost treat her like a bit of a wild animal, like she eyes the jerky, she looks up to the woman, looks back, and her body seems to soften as she reaches out and takes the snack. So something like that would be a more appropriate thing here, I think, rather than just... Yeah, so you've done that here. She snatched it from her fingers and gnawed at it, working the juices through her mouth to tenderize the meat. This is a focalization thing. So I delete that because we shouldn't be invited to the... This is going to sound weird. We as readers don't need to see the inside of her mouth. The narration is so much external to the characters. This is all of a sudden... It's moving... Hi. It's moving really deep into the character's personal space, and we haven't done that really before, so it kind of comes out of nowhere. He wants you to cut it. I want bacon so badly. If I can't have bacon, nobody gets bacon. Um, cool. All right, I want to do two things now. I want to check my computer at uni and make sure it hasn't blown up, and I want to make tea. So I'm gonna take like a 2 minute break. Good. So sit tight, argue viciously with each other, and be horrible. Throw personal attacks at each other. Keep the chat room warm, basically, and I'll be right back. Alright, hi, welcome back. I don't know why I said welcome, I'm welcoming myself back. That's a bit funny. Um, Let me go and read through chat. I think that the statement bacon is overrated is incredibly inflammatory. I think that's the topic you can argue about forever. Why is bacon good? She goes for a second editing stream. Partly true. I do stream through YouTube, um, which is exactly what you're seeing now, just doubled. I guess it's my second stream, my second editing stream. Yes, TTLACC says using bacon fat in other foods. Um, TTLACC, if you ever tried duck, or if you ever get your hands on duck meat, the fat from that you can cook potatoes in, and that is really nice, really good. You should try that. It was minutes ago. I'm like the deadbeat dad that going out for cigs. I've got my cigs right here, and by cigarettes I mean tea. Yeah, don't smoke. It's bad for you. Hey, Syntech. You caught us in a bit of a funny moment. I was off making tea. This is yeah, this is writing editing. Oh, Outrider SG just told you. Whoops. Yeah, we're editing his story actually. He sent it over, and we're going through doing a bit of a line edit. More discussing the structure of it as well. So it's like halfway between a development edit and a line edit. Duck curry would be nice actually. Yeah. Duck skin for noodle soups. Ah, cool. That'd make a really nice sort of crunchy. What kind of noodles do you cook with? Hmm. Um, I want duck. I really want duck. Hmm. We battle some cringe topics. Less than what you'd expect, I think, from a Twitch chat box. Thin rice noodles. Yes, yes, I love those. Yeah, there's something really good about the thin noodles. I think the texture of them is really nice. It's a texture thing more than anything else, I reckon. Um, yeah. I guess when I first started Twitch about a year ago, I didn't know what kind of um atmosphere would be in the chat boxes. I think my experience with Twitch had been limited to Twitch plays Pokemon, which probably isn't like a great introduction to what a Twitch chat box is in terms of like very small streamers. So I've always been really thankful that the the caliber of discussion and the people who decide to tune in. Yeah, it's always really great to see. There's a really nice sort of atmosphere that comes with having wonderful people share their thoughts in a way that's not I guess like overly snarky or like you know that sort of impression you have of what a chat box should be like. I've always been impressed that at least with my experience of Twitch, yeah, it's always been really sort of on point to what we're doing here, and I guess that's just It's probably two things. It's probably you guys, which which is me showering you with praise. But I think it's also the fact that we're doing something pretty niche here, and maybe that attracts a different mentality, I guess. Yeah, I think we lost Syntech. Bye bye, Syntech. I think he just wanted the sweet video editing. There is actually a video editing community on Twitch. But they have their own editing tag, and I don't use the editing tag. But yeah. Twitch installs Linux. Man, sorry, my first thought about that was this guy installing Linux and everyone watching him. But no, okay, if it's Twitch installs Linux, it's people issuing chat commands. That's awful. Who would do that? That's awful. Um, I think it's interesting watching an edit take place live. I reckon. I mean I have I guess a different perspective because I'm the one doing the editing, but yeah, it was Arch Linux. Oh Jesus! So did they have to like make partitions? Did they have to I mean, Arch Linux is like installing, or it's like constructing a car from spare parts. It's 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 not like you just boot up Ubuntu and press next. Um, wow, that's cool. Let's let's dive back into the stream. Um, so yeah, I think there's room here to just within the section we were talking about before, you can um, add a few things to make the scene a bit more immediate and in the moment. Pumpkin Pie Addict's suggestion of adding smell is a really good one because the more sensory detail you add to scenes, the more it feels like you're there, of course. And that doesn't have to be, it doesn't, and indeed shouldn't be restricted to just visual information. It has to be a mixture of everything. Good. Whiskey Roger, I see you found the Discord. Nice. Welcome aboard. Um, I'll stick at 125 for now. Let me know if it's too small, and I'll go back to 150% zoom for anyone that wants me to zoom back in. Otherwise, this should be good. I guess that was a yes. The girl ignored her and continued chewing. So, what do I call you? Can I have your name? Finishing off the last bite, she stared up at Julia, unwavering in her conviction. Not a word. No, that's okay. It's way cooler if it's a mystery anyway. I bet it's something awesome though, like Echo or Nova or Blair. She grimaced over suggestions, and Julia snorted, letting out a brief chuckle. Oh, none of those, huh? Even cooler then, I bet. The girl eyed the plastic and tugged at her earlobe. Plastic of the jerky pack? Because I don't think it was described as plastic before. I think you pull out, oh, that's right. Pull out a package of jerky. I'd reuse the word pack then. Or jerky pack. You can just restate what it is. And tugged at her earlobe. Did you want another one? Do you want another one? The child bobbed her head with enthusiasm, pulling two more strips from the wrapper. She handed them over. Julia handed them over. Just be careful here about, a while back someone asked me about how you differentiate two female characters from an external point of view when you've only got a singular pronoun to differentiate the two of them. And it's intuitive, and that's what the answer is. You have to keep your pulse on which one was just referenced in the paragraph, the sentence previously, and that will inform you as to whether or not your she is either character 1 or character 2. Oh, this Discord code is on my Twitch dashboard. So on my page, just scroll down and you'll see a Discord banner there. Click through, and you'll be sent into my Discord again. No, that's all right. There was a delivery running to try and keep it on who was doing what. Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's something that you have to keep your eye on, I guess. Just keep reading through, and eventually you'll come to the answer. And the little one worked through them as she did the last. Smoke sat pretty, then folded back his ears. Ah, Smoke is a boy, okay. I looked up at Julie with wide, beaming eyes. She said, cocked to the side. She tossed him a piece of jerky, and he inhaled it without chewing. Classic dog. The girl finished the third piece, and Julia messed her hair, smiled. Geez, you were hungry. How long has it been since you last ate? The girl summoned a more impressive frown this time. Tears built up in the corners of her eyes and ran down her face, washing streaks of grime away. Her crying tore at Julia. What if this was Chloe? She grabbed the child's sleeve and tugged at it. Alright, sweetie, you're going to be okay. Julia rose to her feet and dusted off her knees. The girl maintained a vigilant glare, leery of every move she made. With crying, crying's always how to put this? Whenever I encounter a character crying, I always feel the need to build up and release. Because people read very quickly is the unfortunate thing about crying. And that's a problem because by the time your character goes from here to here, it's like 20 seconds, right? If they're very slow. The girl summoned a more impressive frown this time. Tears built up in the corners of her eyes, ran down her face, washing streaks of grime away. Her crying tore at Julia. What if this was Chloe? She grabbed the girl's sleeve, tugged at her. Yeah, let's say about 25 seconds reading out loud, right? Even smaller inside. With crying, if a character cries, you have to spend time building it up and then releasing it. Especially with kids are a bit more immediate in terms of their emotional reaction to crying. They'll be more likely to bawl and then stop suddenly. But that doesn't mean that your narrator can do that. I think if a character cries, you have to spend time building it up and releasing it back into a normal state. Readers read much more quickly than it takes you to write out scenes like this. So crying especially needs to feel earned and long. That's purely my personal suggestion. Because I think it makes for a more convincing emotional display if like you've got a bit of a build up here, but there's very little release. The girl maintained a vigilant glare, leering at every move she made. So one moment she's crying, and the next she's glaring. But then are there tears still in her eyes? That sort of thing. Like tears drying on her cheeks, for instance. If you're gonna have a character cry, build it up, maintain it, and then release it and refer back to it. That's, I guess, my only suggestion here. Sweetie, did I miss something? That says the spelling of sweetie makes me cringe. Huh. I've never really thought about sweet tea, sweet ee. Huh. I guess pick one and stick with it. Hmm. So like I'm just reading through. Say if did you see my above suggestion? I don't think I did. But I think you restated it in if a character cries, the stakes have to be very high, like Lyrebird not accepting Shrek is the one true god. Point taken though. Yeah, the stakes do need to be high. With kids they can be lower, but with adults definitely they do need to be high. Um, yep, cool. And then Outrider says it feels abrupt, so he'll cut it out. Yep. That's such a. I don't know what you're going for there. Well, I did see streaks of grime where her face is dirty. Yep, that's right. So that's her face was dirty before when we first discovered her. She was covered in leaves and mud and dirt and blood. I think was the other one. Um, so we've established that her face is dirty. Julia licked the girl's cheek. You mean Smoke, the dog? Detecting a hint of pale skin in the morning air. I don't know what this is going for here. Oh, sorry. You're making a joke about sensory data. Um, yeah, no, probably not taste. Julia probably shouldn't lick her cheek. I'm gonna thank you for your lovely suggestion, and say that might not work here. Might not work here. Um, what's this in reference to, Sean? About assuming. Julia rose to her feet and dusted off her knees. A cool wind rose through the woods, brushing over her shoulders and kicking fallen leaves into the air. Julia gazed down at her and suggested, I'm going to see my husband and my baby girl. You can come with me if you like. She sank her chin into her chest, tears continuing down her cheeks. Good, so, yep, you got it flowing on here. Julia rested her hand on the child's shoulder and felt tiny fingers squeeze around hers. A moment later, the young girl fell against her thigh, hugging tight. Julia smiled. Yeah, I think it's a good idea too. Fell against maybe is better served with wrapped her arms around her waist, hugging tight, rather than fell against. That makes me feel like she's falling to her knees and then she has to get back up again. So here you can reduce the motion and just say, maybe just have her monkey grip Julia's waist or something. Something a bit more basic. Smoke around her head, sniffing at bushes and leaves and chasing insects as the rain and thunder found the forest. One suggestion, one thing that comes to mind from reading this is the time. I know that it's night because I remember you declaring it was night 4. We don't have any. We don't have any description of how the night is interfacing with the forest. By that I mean like no nightlife noise, no darkness of leaves, no and Julia seems to have complete vision. No nighttime light over the child's face, etc. And Julia seems to have complete vision. One thing about setting your story in nighttime is that you have to. It has to temper everything because daytime is like vanilla experience for people, for humans like me. But nighttime isn't. Nighttime is kind of like the it's a different world, more or less. If you don't reiterate and weave through all of your descriptions that this is taking place at night, your reader will most likely forget because they'll assume it's not important and they'll revert back to vanilla, which is daytime or very, very, very late afternoon. But if this is nighttime, and I think it is, because I remember you saying so before we got into the forest. That needs to be woven through the narrative. It's it's terrifying at night to hear a sound in the forest, but at daytime it's not so terrifying. So when Smoke woofs and Julia looks around for that, for the sound, that should be terrifying. But right now, it reads, here, a single bark, Smoke, and then she runs towards the family dog. But if this happens at nighttime, you need to add layers of fear and other sorts of emotions. Similarly, when you see the little girl and describe where she is, that needs to be coded in nighttime. Yeah. Hey, Meg. How are you doing? I've got to write some comments about the story that you sent to me, so hopefully later on today I'll type something up and I will get back to you. Thank you for being patient with me. It's been a little while since you sent that over, but I have read your story, so let me just type some stuff up and I'll get back to you. The wolf chicken as well, I've also got your story on email and I might send that through. I'll start reading that a bit later. Right, let me go back and read chat. Sorry, I've been focusing for a couple of minutes. I agree with Naz. I think that's part of Sayaka's charm. Yeah, that we don't really know. I still don't know, but um I agree with Sean. It makes the sass seem sassier if we think that Sayaka is a girl. Pumpkin Pie Addict says I just say hugged. For this one here, yep. Yep, I agreed. Like keep it simple. Alright, Whiskey Roger, thanks for joining. That was a couple of minutes ago, but if you're still lingering around, we'll catch you another time. Bring whiskey. Yes. Little Star-Lord's story. An alligator struggles with intrinsic thoughts while swimming along the Amazon River. Ooh, nice. Some existential angst. Some alligator angst. Oh, that's a good title. Call it Alligator Angst. Yes. Good. Yeah. I'd read that. Ah, Pale Light. Ah. Where is Pale? So, I thought Psycho was, I remember you guys talking about Pale Light, but I can't find it now. Um, no, like it actually it's pretty important. You don't need to keep redeclaring it's night, but you need to remember that it's night and that the consequences of that will have different emotional implications of the story. I think that's what I was going on for. I'm real psycho. Just says just add it was dark in every paragraph, or it was dark and stormy night. Naz rightly says that those are quality suggestions. I couldn't agree more. Could not agree more. Yeah, if people send like little story snippets to me, I will do off-air edits, but within reason. Like um, for example, Meg's story was only a couple of thousand words, and it's just me reading through it and giving feedback, not doing like full-blown line editing. If you want me to do like full-blown line editing, and the story is really short, like I'd be happy to do it. Big stuff though, uh, yeah, I don't have the time. I actually forgot to send anything. Says Meg. Oh, brother's wedding. Nice. Congratulations to your brother. Pumpkin Pie Addict. Alligator Eggs screams Hollywood is all out of movie titles. Oh, yeah, fair. Uh, Hmm. Maybe not Sayaka. Like in theory, if someone asked me to read through and give my opinion on like a long story, I'd probably be happy to do that. But that's not strictly editing, that's more like beta reading. Editing and beta reading are two different things, yeah. 1 million word fantasy spec edited by Monday. Um, that's 24 hours for me. Yeah, manageable, reasonable. Yeah. Oh, the exposure, of course. Oh, well done. Oh, that's upsetting. Hmm. Yeah, send it through, Sayaka. Plop it into Discord, because other people would probably be able to help you out as well. If it's just reading through stories and asking for feedback, yeah, Discord will help you out there. We detail in my uncle's trilogy. It's called The Lord of the Rings. What a unique and interesting title. Please tell me more about this Lord of the Rings. Please tell me more. Um, let's push on. Do you want to rain? The ladies kept to a comfortable ridge that sloped down at a gentle incline to the right. This feels about out of place. I know what you mean about I think you wanted to say both women. The ladies comes off as a bit colloquial, and the narrator hasn't had much of a colloquial voice up until now. So I think replace that with women, the women, both women. The dog disappeared behind the timber. His black hair like a shadow on top of shadows. That's nice. Shadow on top of shadows. A sudden stillness bathed the canopy again. Just reposition camera. I hate this chair. Oh well. Um. Yeah. I need a new chair. A sudden stillness bathed the canopy again, and all the sounds of the world were whispers compared to the static of the rain playing music on the leaves. Julia felt the thrumming first, a pressure on her flesh. Ripples formed in the small puddles of rainwater gathering in the mud. They grew more frequent, violent, until she heard it. That thing, it's back. Interesting little transition you got going on here. I like how the rain creeps up on them. Um, Definitely too quick. Good news, you get to write more. Milk this out. Um, yeah, so this is the kind of thing that, just in terms of pacing, you can really slow it down and milk it out. Fat hobbits and lots of precious rings. Hmm. The Sheilas, no. I'll become your new chair. What? Blew it up. Yep, exactly, blew it up. I think I agree with Sayaka here about slope down at a gentle incline to their right. Um, Maybe just um, as an extra point here, in terms of forest terrain, we haven't encountered much flavor of forest beyond path through trees. Um, if you really want to describe the forest as a bit more of a as an organism or a terrain unto itself, then we need to weave that throughout. But right now, it feels like in my mind that this forest is basically just a set piece, and then you go through it. So in terms of forest terrain, we haven't really encountered too much that would warrant specific descriptions of topography, unless we were talking about rivers or canyons or their crossing, water crossings, that sort of thing. So have a think about whether or not you need to make the forests more topographically real, or if you can just get away with keeping them to the paths. Like, if it's important that the terrain becomes windy, then go for it. But otherwise, for me, it's a bit like an A to B thing, where it doesn't need too much fleshing out. Julia clamped down on the girl's wrist and ripped her from her stride. They broke from the ridge, cutting down the slope and through the thicket, but two of them... So here we go. So it is important. In that case, you probably want to spend a little bit more time fleshing out where they are in relation to the path or the forest or what's going on around them, to make it a bit more... to elevate it from just being a basic path and trees kind of setting. The two of them struggled as they ran, blundering over roots and under branches until they came to a small outcrop. It overlooked a narrow trench with a placid brook that wound down the length of the cut, serpentine silver in the night. The threat grew louder like a metal wobble on a whirring wind that felled trees as easily as she could wade through tall grass. That's a very interesting description there. This sort of description, I feel, needs to be solidified first before they run. So in my head, the order of events should be noise to this description, women react, run. Doing it this way means that order of events may better be served if you reconfigure to the noise, the description, the women react, and then they run. This is probably important because if you run first, here's what it is right now. It's noise, run, come to landing, describe forest, this description. Doing it this way lessens the emotional impact. There's less emotional impact in the current form. Hey Childish Fiasco, welcome to the stream. How are you doing? How are you doing? We're editing Sean's story today. So, yeah, we usually take like a bit of a line edit approach, but sometimes it's good to take a step back and talk about the flow of the paragraphs, what's going on in terms of plot. So we kind of mix it up here a bit. We like to keep it nice and friendly too. Everyone can contribute, and yeah. We always had some really good suggestions from people in the chat box about what they think should happen in paragraphs, and if I miss anything, then yeah, people can jump in and tell me I'm a moron for missing really basic things sometimes. But yeah, welcome to the stream. So what we were dealing with then was this paragraph where there's a monster that's after Julia, and she's with a child in the forest, and they have to run, basically. What I think this is lacking is a bit of an emotional core. Sure, it's going to be a spooky event, but what I really want to see is that sense of fear about what's going on. Classic Kanye. Classic modern Kanye, really. From Lee Everett. So I could get back here in the chat box. We don't want you on YouTube. Also keep in mind that some of this detail here feels a little bit like like a Wikipedia synopsis. The two of them struggled as they ran. They blundered over roots. Here's the outcrop. It overlooks a trench. Serpentine silver in the night is a very smooth run-on description, so it's lovely. But this is sort of missing a bit of the emotional oomph that we've come to. Well, that I think would serve better if you change around the order of events, like what I've suggested here. Yes, wonder no more. It's the real Sayaka. Sorry, Sayaka. I've been neglecting chat for a little while. Excuse me. Yeah, I reckon everything can be summed up as more, maybe not so much Blue the Forest. I think it's more, this is in response to our Outrider SG's comment, Blue the Forest, which refers to describing more motion in terms of like key character interactions. I think it's more that this is Blue, but the way it's written is maybe not conducive to having it act as an emotional piece of writing rather than a descriptive piece of writing. Sayaka's suggestion about adding degrees, feet in inches, very detailed. Lyrics of fire. No, I think Sayaka was joking. Yeah, I definitely don't think putting precise measurements is ever a good idea. Never a good idea. Good, good. Julie tossed the diaper bag into the gully, then slipped in the mud. Sliding from the ledge, she struggled in the muck as the downpour spilled from the forest into the ravine. Pushing herself off the ground, Julia stood and helped the girl avoid the same. Into the ravine. This is like avoid the same fate. I know what you're going for here. I'm gonna get rid of the comment. I'm not sure if that works as much as it could. But the very useful /s. Is this minion speak? This is minion speak, isn't it? I won't take the bait. Not gonna take the bait. Gonna focus on the writing. That's what I'm gonna do. What I was saying here was that, I know what you're going for here, and intellectually it makes sense, but I'm not sure if, like, you could say avoid the same fate, but I think there's a better way of saying to prevent her from sliding off into the ridge, or into the ravine. I think you can think of a replacement for that. Out of time, she crouched and pressed her back to the flat face of the outcrop, pulling the child to her chest. A tangle of roots draped before her like inflexible trestles of hair slick with rain, shielding them from sight. The monstrosity was on them now. Its foul holler sounded throaty and mechanical. Its foul... I reconfigured the sentence here to add a second part to it. So it's found mechanical hollow boomed through the gully, echoing into infinity. Just personify it. Instead of just describing it outright as like a vanilla statement, make it its own character, give it a verb, and push it into the scene. That would make it come alive. Light sliced through the trees, turning every drop of rain to diamond sparkle as they fell. That's nice. Or into a diamond sparkle as they fell. Doesn't matter. The girl began to snivel. In fact, can you just say to diamonds? The girl began to snivel. Julia cupped her hand over her mouth, and they sat motionless as the monster's fury dialed down to a low-pitched rumble. Something was stomping toward them. It stomped. Julia sensed its presence looming overhead. She closed her eyes and didn't flinch as she felt it inching closer. They'd be discovered. One thing I want... a tangle of roots straight before her. Turn this around into an action. Like, Julia saw a tangle of roots, thick like trestles. Tresses, sorry. Julia saw a tangle of roots, thick like tresses of hair, a mat covering a little indent nearby. With her heart in her mouth, she scrambled with the child to the safety behind those roots. Hidden now, they waited, peering out between the prison slats. Waiting. Something like that. What this suggestion here also incorporates is a slight change in narration style, where it's really pushed up close into Julia's face. We start to get a sense of her fear, a sense of her, how she's dealing with being in this scene. I think that's something that's sort of missing from this paragraph. During your edit, have a think about Julia's internal state. You've got the external details worked out. But what's missing is a sense of Julia, of what the hell is going through Julia's mind. It must be intense. And you can use that to good effect by getting those thoughts and feelings on the page. Your reader will be 100% more inclined to be scared with her. And when you do that, the reader allows themselves to empathize. Easy empathy. Great scene building. The more you do that, the closer you are to your character, the easier it is to construct a scene from the internal space. What's going on inside your character's head and heart. Because we've got such a thick description of what's going on from the outside in, I can visually understand what's going on, but I don't feel it here. This isn't a huge fix. Like, you don't need to rewrite it all and make it all internal. Every now and then, splash some... that's one way of doing it. You can splash some details in about how she's feeling, or you can kind of try and write like what I've done here with this kind of hybrid approach, where the character will do something and then the narrator will project their feelings out. Julia saw a tangle of roots, thick like tresses of hair, and that covering a little indent nearby. So she's just seen where to go. With her heart in her mouth, emotion, She scrambled to the child with the child to the safety behind those roots. To the safety behind those roots implies what she's doing there. Hidden now they waited, peering out between the prison slats, waiting. Prison slats, waiting. There's a lot of emotion within this piece of writing here. But it has to fit with your writing style too. Let me go back and read the comments. I didn't see the holler on Discord. Sparkle's a bit of a loaded word thanks to Twilight. But it's also maybe a bit weak. You can use shimmer or light dancing. You can do other sorts of things instead of sparkle. Yep. Oh, prison bars. No. Ah. Yeah, you had the prison bar metaphor already. Use it. Yep. she struggled into the muck, the Pokemon. Hey Wolf Chicken, hi, good to see you. Thanks for sending your story over to me. Did you want me to edit that at the start of the next stream? I didn't check how long it was. I can do it over the video thing, like what we're doing here. Is that what we discussed? I think we were going to do that, weren't we? No, I did both. But Smoke was of another mind. From the ridge she could hear the trumpet of his howl. The thing above them made a tremor of the soil, then grumbled something deep and raspy. Peeled away from the outcrop, and Julia felt the ground shift as it ambled off. Smoke's bark grew closer but distorted, low and threatening. He came upon the fiend, strafing a circle in the mud. Tears pulled behind Julia's eyelids as she listened to him snarl and snap. The squish of leaves gave way to wind as the dog lunged into the air. He whimpered in fitful spurts, his voice weakening as he was thrown into the ground again and again, but Smoke refused to back down. Protector of the family, his final sacrifice. The sound of him bounding at that monster and chomping at the air had her shaking in the rain. She begged for him to give it up, to disappear into the trees. Run. The dog would not relent. She heard the clang of teeth on something hard, gnawing and thrashing at wet flesh. The thing let loose a murderous roar. Julia flinched at the sound of meat striking meat, and Smoke yelped. Terrible pain shriek. He whimpered as he struck the ground, scraping through the mud. Sorry, I had trouble with that word. Scraping through the mud. She could fight it no longer. Muted sobs traced the curve of her nose and upper lip, tears falling onto the girl's head. The child clawed at her, clutching at her arms, and Julia squeezed her in kind. Let's take this apart. 850, cool. No worries. I'll let you know when I'm gonna do it, okay? Interesting points from Sayako. We've got, I think my understanding was that it was Smoke's howl. Trumpet of a Howl is also... I don't think there's anything mechanically wrong with it. So that'll be personal preference. If you like it, keep it. But yeah, do have to think about the... Yeah, if you start with Smoke, and then... Julia hearing Smoke's howl. I think that's right. Unless you wanted to talk about the creature's howl. Now I have a question here about oh yeah, okay, yeah. It sort of like heralding is what you were going for, I think, as well. Minus the dawn. Let's have a chat about visually what's going on here. It came upon the fiend Strafing a circle of mud. That's what I highlighted before. Uh, because the story, yeah, I quite like it too. Because the story is focalized through Julia. This scene here needs to be established within her visual parameters. If she can't see it, we can't see it. That's mostly the case for what's happened so far, with one notable exception, which was when Julia was walking through the forest and the narrator tells you as a reader that there's the black thing moving through the trees that Julia isn't privy to. However, for 99% of the other parts of the story, this rule tends to apply. This is a rule that we have established as due to the style of narration. So I'm making, as a reader, I make the assumption that this scene occurs with Julia watching on. However, we don't ever get an explicit understanding that she is entirely aware of the scene from a visual sense. In fact, most of the narrator's description is through sound. The point here is that if you establish your narrator as the camera that you see everything through, we can't have any visual descriptions of Smoke and the monster without Julia being understanding of those scenes. Julia has to be like the prism that it's like the dark side of the moon, you know, prism. You got the light coming in and being split off the other side. That prism is Julia. The narrator is the white beam of light. They have to work together to give you the color out the other side. If you have Julia not seeing the scene, but the narrator describing something visual outside of a scene which Julia is not privy to, that's a floating narrator, and we haven't had a floating narrator yet. We've only had a narrator that is fully in, like, with eyes just for Julia. Easy fix is just to make Julia look out onto a little clearing where the dog and the monster come together and they do battle. Yep. That's my suggestion. Let me go back and read comments. It's alright. Shawn says she can't see any of this, only hears it. So anything that betrays that should be cut. If you wanted to go in your direction, you would need to be mindful of sentences like this. Like, you got Bark, grew closer but distorted lane training. He came upon the fiend strafing in a circle of mud. That's not an auditory description, that's a visual description. So if you want to keep it sorry, hello people talking, let me get to you in a sec. If you want to keep it all sound focused, you need to declare that Julia is blind and that she is forced to listen in. You need to drop in a sentence saying Julia tries her best to see where all these sounds are coming from, but can't. She can only listen in her prison as this happens. And then you write out what happens. If you don't have a sentence like that, your reader's going to be confused about how the narrator is talking about events. Either way, Declare that she's blind, or make her see it. Pick one and go with it. Yeah, I also thought crying behind Julia's, like the tears forming behind Julia's eyelids. Yeah, I agree, that's a bit unusual. Also, this is in the darkness. We are going to get some description of how the darkness until you can see. Yeah, good point about the darkness from Psycho as well. So you can use that to your advantage as well, Shawn. So because we're in the dark, this should be easier. Just declare that you can't see what's happening due to the thick blanket of night. Or something like that, something to that effect. Good stuff, good stuff. Hey Ninja Happenings, hi, how you doing? Sorry, I didn't get to you until now. And also, now that I'm seeing Fabio, hello! let me go back through the Twitch chat and I'll address everything as it comes. Yeah, actually, I wonder if he does have the flashlight. Her eyes are closed, so she's probably up against the wall. Okay, I can't see anything beyond the stream of light in front of her. Cool. You can definitely play into that as well, like her isolation from the events should be a really emotional thing for her to experience. Yeah. That's an interesting point, says Naz. You might want to talk about the stream, a kind of peace in a moment of tension. That's a really good point. You have the calmness of the area juxtaposed against the violence that's about to happen. Hmm. Chicken says, smelling things as well. I didn't know that about SG. Huh. It's your name. Cool. I'm up to here now. I'm up to date. Very good. Looking for anybody to see, you could say Julia could hear deep, voracious moans coming from the forest. Cancel my suggestions. Steal away. That's what we're here for. Everything is free to take. Whoops. Now, where are we? So, once you... Yeah, my suggestion for all of this would be to make sure that the reader understands that Julia is blind, and then lean into the sounds. As you said, you can go through and cut out the visual stuff and just have it happen in an auditory sense. That could be quite an effective scene as well, very emotional. Moments later, the ground shifted again, and the violent droning rekindled, twisting ever upward in intensity. Julie waited for the harsh light to recede, allowing the night to spill back into the cut. Once the sound of that thing had vanished from earshot, she clambered up the roots, ignoring the ache in her arms. She hurried over to Smoke. He lay there, drawing shallow, taxing breaths. Legs twitched as he did his best to meet Julia's eyes, looking more dog than wolf then. So for example, he hurried over to Smoke. So here you... Here you can emphasize that Julia has to search around for her dog, as she doesn't know where he is visually. So that is kind of like stepping out from behind the curtain. And now that she can see him, she re-enters. All of these visual descriptions can then follow through from this one here. She stroked her hand across the length of his raven black coat. long solemn moments. I get rid of Raven Black actually. I think keep it simple. She scratched into his ear the way he liked. Good repetition. I'm gonna make a comment about that too. Actually, I don't need to. I can reinforce positively, yeah, the good parts. And this is something that we had repeated to us before, which is really nice. So repetitions work really neatly this way. Tip of his tail slapped the ground and excited little flourishes. I put sad little flourishes. You can keep. Yeah, you don't want to break the mood, I think. Good boy, that's a good boy. She was sobbing, her cheeks flushed and quivering. You can go to sleep now, boy, it's okay. Good dog. He's just swelled and shrank, less and less with each breath. Then he faded. Oh, I'm getting a bit emotional. Um, Minutes passed like ages until Julia felt the girl's fingers slip onto her shoulder. She took her hand and lingered a moment longer. She stood and wiped the tears from her eyes, saying softly, "Follow me." I reconfigure this to wiping. Um, excuse me. Wiping the tears from her eyes, she said softly, "Follow me." Maybe get rid of "said softly" and just put "she murmured." That's my go-to. Alrighty. Yeah, I think if you nail that transition from blindness into visual, I think that could be, yeah, very sad. Ah, cut is another word for ravine or gully. I'm learning all of these really cool forest features. All these forest words. Nice one. Um, where was the aching arms? That's a good point. I must have missed the aching arms. But yes, good point, Psycho. Yeah. Rekindled, I'm 50-50 about. I think you can change it and make it a bit better if you like. Right before the highlight. Thank you. I couldn't see it because I typed in aching. She clambered up the roots, ignoring the ache in her arms. I assumed it was from shielding the girl against her for so long. She's sort of like when you brace an action, it can kind of build up aching. Together they walked their way back down the outcrop and across the stream. Billy towed through the chill water, grimacing as it soaked through her sneakers. On the other side of the brook, she lifted the girl onto an embankment. She pushed the diaper bag over her head, and the little one helped to drag it up. Taking hold of a sapling, Julie could no longer ignore that her thumb pulsed tiny daggers up her hand, aware that her biceps trembled and ached as she hoisted herself over the dirt wall. Past the tenebrous trees they slogged, each step heavier than the last. I think, actually, this here, I'd be happy to not have that. You could condense that away into a sentence with they left and continued their journey through the treacherous forest. Um, I think partly because we've just had a fairly emotional climactic scene. I think for me, I don't want motion, and I don't want A B C D E F emotions. So this happens, then that happens, then that happens, then that happens. I think just going into a sentence like this can actually be really good. If you cut all that out, and they move through the forest, can be implied here. Or something like that, like a really short replacement. Because unless it's super important that this detail is presented to us, you can just sort of summarize it. What was I gonna say? See, if you cut away from maybe I put in a little goodbye for smoke, and then on they walked. Mm. Yep. Cannabis trees equals murky woods. I think that's right. Or at the very least, I assumed it was like a specific type of tree. Either way, I think the image is well served. I don't think I can finish today, no. Might go a little bit more. Repetition of mud? Uh, There's quite a bit of mud, but I guess it's just been raining and they're in the forest, so it does make a bit of sense. I remember it twice, once on the girl, once in the landscape. I don't think it's too overblown. I'll do one more paragraph, and then we'll get up to Jules and Aiden. Past the tenebrous trees they slogged, each step heavier than the last. Excuse me, you can see my words are starting to fade. Julia felt her thighs begin to burn. The bags grew heavier still. In need of a moment to recover, she sank onto a rock, slick with rain and dampened moss. She didn't care. The bag slumped into the mud next to her. We got slumped twice? Do we? Sank and slumped. Okay. The little girl shuffled over, sat beside her, and waited. She held her head low, watching her hair dangle as the water streamed through it. I'm not sure if that image is... I'm fully on board with it. Several minutes slipped by before Julia found her third wind. By standing up, something caught her gaze. It was brief, but she saw it, a shadow moving along the edge of her sight, flitting between the tall elms and pines. She bent to her knees, motioning the girl to her backpack and whispered, "Grab the flashlight." The child did as she was bid, and pulled the flashlight from the leather sack, handing it over. Julia took her by her arm and pulled her close behind, shielding her from whatever was about to pounce. She clicked the switch, and light poured through the trees. Jules? Aiden? Julia slipped out from under the strap of the diaper bag, and took off sprinting towards her husband. He mirrored her enthusiasm, weaving between the trees, with Chloe in tow to meet her halfway. "Jules, what the hell?" Aiden said as she wrapped her arms around him. He stumbled back half a step, and Chloe's arms flailed in excitement. The rain somehow picked up strength, crashing down in a deluge of clubs the size of grapes. "I had to," she said. "I'm sorry." "I had to, Chloe was just so warm. You scared the shit out of me." Let's cut there. I think the only thing that stuck out to me was this. Have a think about if you really need her to watch her hair dangle as the waters slip through it. For example, you can just do that. Or she hung her head low. Saika says, I need a moment to recover or overcome with grief, something a bit more serious. I agree. You can milk out a grief. 1 or 2 sentences would be fine. It's funny things we don't remember writing. I think the point of third wind is that it goes beyond the second wind, so it relies on you having the second wind idiom and then sort of constructing the new one from it. I like it. You might also have Julie think about Six's time with Smoke as she feels the grief. Different kind of wind, I think. Solar Starlord says that it's a lot. There's quite a bit of this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened. I think when Sean goes through and works through this section here, I think the way that he wants to configure the narrator is probably a little different to what's happening now. So I haven't paid too much attention to, with the exception of actually, there was one scene where I did talk a bit about this. It's a point worth reiterating. No, before. I can't find it right now, but it was a scene where this one here. Yeah. So just when you're going through again, Sean, just have a think about if your writing begins to sound like this happens, this happens, this happens, this happens. It means that there's a bit too much blue without emotion. So it's not a case of pink versus blue, with pink being descriptions of the world and blue being motion around a character. It's more that there's less of the internal state than there needs to be. So we need a bit more sort of emotion and what's going on. I think that's what Solar Star Lord sort of hinting at. Oh, okay, Six is the name of the girl. Gotcha. I think what Naz was saying, I don't feel about what Solar Starler was talking about in this scene. Maybe more in the previous ones. It certainly didn't bother me enough. Um, mm, I think there's a bit of emotion that comes across here. I get what he means about maybe this section down here, which is why I think Sayaka's suggestion of adding the grief serves two purposes. One, it extends the grief out in the scene, and two, it also breaks up the nature of the scene where it plods from one this happened to the next. I think there's a balance here we can get. Hmm. I think the start of it lends itself more to being emotional, yeah. Hmm. I think that's actually a fair observation too. When it happens, it it kind of grinds the story out a little bit too. There's actually quite useful feedback as well. Um, it's an indication that you can sprinkle in some more emotion to break it up, and I think that's a good point to raise. Yeah. So if you add, for instance, if you add the grief here, or even up here as well, that would also break up what Soul Star's talking about. Yeah, that's really good, Sean. It's good that you're getting like a new perspective on things too. And it's not like we're the arbitrators of pure fact either. It's all just our impressions and our understanding of the story as we see it. So yeah, as far as that goes, if it's helpful for you just to get a fresh pair of eyes and a new perspective on it, then it's good. Um, I'm gonna call it. I'm gonna call that a stream. Thank you everyone for joining. Um, Thanks for the great suggestions and the really constructive stuff we had going. Shawn, thank you for letting us dig through your story. I think I might do yours once more, and then the wolf chickens maybe. We might combine it next stream. We'll see how we go. I'll decide on Discord. Um, I think I have Naz's story as well to look back at. Just remind me over Discord what we're doing. Yeah. And apart from that, I hope you guys have a really good start of the week. Let's keep chatting during the week on Discord, and we will see you Thursday. Let me read some comments before I pop off. Good stuff. Okay. Thanks, guys. We'll see you on Thursday. Good.